Is new Commanders offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy taking things too far? According to reports, multiple Commanders players have approached head coach Ron Rivera with their concerns around new offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy and his profanity-laced rants in the middle of Commanders practice. I'm going to let you know what I think about this here in just a second, but first I want to hear from you guys. Do you approve of EB's coaching approach here, this old school approach where you really get on these players? Give me a yes or give me a no down there in the comment section. Definitely want to see how you're feeling about this particular issue. Now, Ron Rivera, the head coach, had this to say about Eric Bieniemy the other day. I had a number of guys come to me and I said, hey, just go talk to him. I said, understand what he's trying to get across to you. As they go and they talk and they listen to him, it's been enlightening for a lot of these guys. I mean, it's a whole different approach. Now, this tells me that Scott Foster, the previous offensive coordinator here, was a lot more forgiving than Eric Bieniemy is right now. EB is somebody that doesn't take any crap. He wants perfection on a down-to-down basis, and he's just not getting that in Commanders practice right now. And when he was asked about this, he didn't give an inch. This is what he had to say. I'm always going to be loud, always going to be vocal, always going to demand from my leaders. If I ain't doing my job, my ass gets fired. It's my job and my responsibility to make sure I'm getting our guys to do what I'm expecting them to do. I want our guys to clearly understand we don't take anything for granted. You see me pull players and have long discussions with them, so we're always on the same page. Eric Bieniemy is who he is. Eric Bieniemy knows how to adapt and adjust. Eric Bieniemy is a tough, hard-nosed coach, but also understand I'm going to be the biggest and harshest critic, but also their number one fan. I got their back all the time. And, you know, I really do wonder which players ended up going to complain to Coach Rivera. Was it multiple starters? Was it the backup players? I'm really interested to know which players actually went to go complain, because right now it seems like Eric is really doing a good job trying to get these guys and whip them back into shape after a really tough 2022 season and after a tough start to camp. But let me know down in the comment section, which player or players do you think went to go complain to Ron Rivera? I want you guys to get creative down there in the comment section. And this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever YouTube throws you an ad break here, it's just going to come in a couple of seconds. Take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So I'm going to go over the benefits and the potential downfalls of this approach from Eric Bieniemy, this old school yell at players, cuss guys out at practice type of style that he has adopted. And I'm going to give you the arguments in favor and against. Let's start with the ones in favor of this type of thing. And it establishes a very high standard in the building. We saw this with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that this kind of style works a lot better when you got a head coach like Andy Reid that isn't as much of a yeller, that isn't as much of a domineering type of head coach. And, you know, if players don't like what Eric Bieniemy is saying to them, they can just go to the nicer head coach and he can kind of smooth things over. And, you know, it definitely establishes that high standard where it's like, if you're not getting your job done, you're going to get yelled at, plain and simply. You're going to get this right, or you are not going to get off easy. And, you know, that's something that I think a lot of people really appreciate about Bieniemy's approach here. And then also it keeps the focus levels high, right? If you're always kind of in fear almost of getting yelled at practice, you're going to give 100% effort on every single play. Plain and simply, you're not going to have a lapse in focus because you know a coach is watching you, and if you even let up for a second, you're going to get yelled at. And then also it fosters a mentally tough team and really forms mentally tough players. Right in Kansas City, that was one of the most mentally tough teams in the National Football League there under Eric Bieniemy's watch there, at least the offense. And you could see with Patrick Mahomes, somebody that can make those big fourth quarter comebacks, that can make those big second half comebacks in the postseason. That's because he's been coached hard by Eric Bieniemy, and that team as a whole is able to do that because Eric Bieniemy puts the pressure on them in practice so that when the pressure of the game hits, it's not as much of a burden on them mentally. Now, I'm going to be going over why this could be a potential icue for the Washington Commanders, but before I do that, if you're excited to see Eric Bieniemy's offense like I am this year for the Washington Commanders, do me a favor, click that thumbs up icon and like today's video. It's a free and easy way to help us out here at the Commanders Report, so do your part today. Go ahead, click that thumbs up icon right now. Now let's talk about the arguments against this approach, this really hard-nosed, yell-at-players type of approach that Eric Bieniemy is bringing to the nation's capital. Number one, it does not encourage cooperation. You look at some of the head coaches and offensive minds around the league right now that are really starting to bloom. Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur. They're very cooperative style play callers and play designers, right? Even Andy Reid of the Kansas City Chiefs, very cooperative type of coaches that encourage cooperation with their players. And the thing with cooperation in the NFL, if players feel a sense of ownership and they feel like they can cooperate to the development of the offense, they're going to take more stock in that, and they're going to, in the focus levels, definitely increase. We've seen that with the success of the 49ers and the Rams and the Green Bay Packers. This is the new wave of coaching in the NFL, and EB is definitely in the old school of things when it comes to coaching. And then it's definitely not what players are used to. In today's day and age, lots of people have never had hard coaching like Eric Bieniemy is giving these players now. So I think some of the players that complained to head coach Ron Rivera are definitely some of the guys that have been coached a bit lighter, that are used to kind of that lighter touch, and they're not really used to this heavy-handed approach that Eric Bieniemy is bringing to the Commanders this year. And then also it's like, what has Eric Bieniemy done? It's like, sure, he's been to 5 straight AFC championships, but as an offensive coordinator with the best quarterback to ever live, arguably, on his team, and with one of the best, if not the best, offensive play caller to ever live in Andy Reid as his head coach. So it's like, what has Eric Bieniemy really done? What has he done to really be able to yell at these players and kind of insult them a little bit on the field? And, you know, when it comes to this sort of stuff, I think the old school approach definitely works with guys like Bill Belichick. Somebody that's been in the building for a long time, someone that's won 6 Super Bowl championships as the head coach. He has a lot of headway there to be able to say, hey, I can yell at you because I know this way works, and players respect that. And then because of all this stuff, players could absolutely buy out of the culture here. You want players to buy in. They want to believe in the culture that you are building. And if you're yelling at players, telling them that they suck, that they're not doing the job correctly, and you're not doing it in a cooperative way, you're not showing any love when you do it, players could absolutely buy out and completely check out for the season, which is absolutely the last thing that the Washington Commanders need. If that happens, everybody is getting fired on this coaching staff, Eric Bieniemy and Ron Rivera included. So coming up here, I'm going to be telling you my take. I've given you the arguments for it and then also the arguments against it. I'm going to tell you what I think here in just a second. But before I do that, go ahead. Once again, another chance to like today's video. Click that thumbs up icon right now if you're juiced for the 2023 season. And my opinion on this whole situation, man, is I think it's time to grow up. We know that this organization is not where it wants to be right now. Multiple disappointing seasons, lots of mediocrity with this team right now. And Ron Rivera is trying to win now, and Eric Bieniemy is trying to win now because Eric knows what that means for his career. If he can get this offense whipped into shape, he's going to be a head coach in this league, and he understands the pressure involved with this season, and he's doing everything that he can to hold this team to the highest standard. And these guys, I think that they just need to take a little bit of hard coaching. They need to understand that Eric truly does care about them, but he wants the best for them, which is why he's hard on them. And in this league, man, you got to be cutthroat. You got to be high energy, and that's exactly what Eric Bieniemy is. I think if they listen to what Eric has to say and take the coaching, not personally, but go out there and look to try to make those improvements, I think this offense is going to be better for it, and those individual players are going to have better careers because of that. Just ask Patrick Mahomes and a bunch of these other Kansas City current and former Kansas City Chiefs like Tyreek Hill that have come to the defense of Bieniemy here saying you're never going to get a better coach, and I definitely think Eric Bieniemy is doing a good job to this point, and these players need to toughen up a little bit. Now, before I go, I want to have a little bit of fun here. Now, in jest here, I'm going to do a little bit of speculation on 3 players that I think might have gone to Coach Rivera to complain. Let's start with Sam Howell. Now, I love Sam, but he only eats chicken. That's the only meat that he eats, and I feel like somebody that only eats one type of meat might not like it when somebody yells at him at practice. So a little bit of a joke there for Sam. And then also Dax Milne, kind of a richer kid, someone that went to BYU, Christian guy. I just don't see Dax as somebody that takes hard coaching well. I'm not sure if he's ever been coached that hard in his life, to be honest with you. And then also Chris Paul, the left guard that's currently battling for a starting spot on this team, apparently hasn't been doing too well in 11 on 11 drills this week. And I think that Eric Bieniemy might be saying, you know, I could take the Chris Paul from the NBA and he would block that guy better than you. And maybe that hurt his feelings a little bit because Chris Paul, of course, is not very big. the one in the NBA, that is. That's going to be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all the support. Make sure you click that subscribe button for free and daily Commanders coverage for free here on the channel. Really do appreciate the support. I'll see you guys later. And as always, hail to the Commanders.